Hello there. It's time. It's 3 o'clock. It's Wednesday. It's time to do a Facebook Live. Hi, this is Casey. I'm owner and artist at Yaya Made Galveston. And today I'm going to show you hand stitching. It's a blind hem stitch that my mother taught me many years ago. And the reason she taught this to me is because she wanted to show me how to put a hem in a garment that would stay even if part of the hem got obliterated. When I was a little girl, you had to wear dresses to school. And you couldn't wear jeans and shorts and pedal pushers, and that's what we used to call capris. You wore dresses, period, end of story. That's all there was to it. Little girls. And we went to recess. It wasn't PE, it was recess. And we wore our dresses and played dodgeball and kickball and Red Rover and all those things in our dresses, and we ran and played and climbed and did all the things that little girls do, especially us tomboys, little girls. And you'd get your heel caught in your hem and bloop, the whole hem would come out. But Mom put in a blind hem stitch that locked every stitch, and if you got your heel caught in your hem, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 stitches would come loose, but the rest of the hem did not. So it was easy to repair, and you didn't come home with your whole hem hanging down off your dress. I'm going to show you how to do that today, and it is very useful because things do happen. You do catch your hem in your heel, your shoe in your dress, or snag it on something and the hem comes out. I use the sewing machine to do most of my hems nowadays, and when I do it with just a straight stitch, it's fine. But if I use the hem stitch that my machine gives me, if I do catch my hem, you can lose quite a bit of the hem. It comes loose. But with this method, and it is hand stitching, which, like many of you, I avoid at all costs. But sometimes you need it. And if it's a certain kind of fabric, you want to do a hand stitch, hem stitch, instead of machine stitch. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, for that, you need a needle and thread. And you're going to sew using 1 strand. So you're going to put your knot. You see that? There it is. There's the knot. You're going to put your knot in just 1 strand. And frequently when you make your knot, you get a little tail. Just clip off the tail, and you know, just have as small a knot as possible. And then it's doubled over partially. So there's your thread. Now I have a mock-up of a hem. This is, let me stick my needle up, and I'm going to move the camera so it'll face down a little bit. I have the Band-Aid, the rubber band, so I shouldn't drop you this time. Alright, here's my fabric. This is a mock hem. I have one of my pins not in it. I have it folded and pressed. If you press your hem before you do your stitching, it goes a lot smoother. So I folded it the length I wanted my hem, And then I fold it over so you don't have a raw edge. I folded it over. There's the fold. So you have a nice smooth hem to work with, and it's pressed, so it's going to be much easier to work with. Now, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to call this the fold and this the fabric. This would be the skirt portion of your dress or skirt if we were working on a skirt. So, the fold and the fabric. I'm going to take my needle and let me get situated so I can get as much of this on the camera. Not me, the stitching. Okay, you're going to take your needle and you're going to, I'm not starting at the end right here because there's selvage. We're going to start right here. And I'm putting my needle in as close to the edge of the fold as I can. And pull it through till we get to the knot. And I use my needle to situate the knot to make sure that it is behind the fold and not showing. Then I'm going to take in the fabric right underneath the fold, a very small stitch. I'm using a dark thread on this light fabric so you can see what we're doing. I'm going to take a very small stitch, teeny stitch, bring it through the fold, almost exactly the same place that the needle came up when you started. Leave my needle sit there a minute. Take the base of the thread and wrap it around the needle. Pull your thread. There we go. Little tug so it's tight. Now I'm going to do the next stitch, and to get there I'm going to take my needle and put it at the base of the stitch we just did, and we're going to go through the fold. Not under the fold, we're going to go through the fold. So your needle is between the fabric of the fold. So you can't see the needle, it's between the fabric here. Then we're going to pull the needle through the edge of the fold and pull it through. Now that thread is hidden within the fold. Then you're going to take a stitch in the fabric, tiny stitch, bring it back up almost at the exact same spot that you came out of. Take your base of your thread and wrap it around the needle and pull your needle through. It'll get caught on the edges sometimes, but that's okay. Little tug. Now you have two stitches and they're both locked. I'm going to do it a couple more times. Put the needle in at the base of the last stitch and run it through the fold, in between the fold. Come out at the fold on the edge and pull it through. I hope all of this is on camera. It's hard to do and situate at the same time. Okay, now we're ready to take another stitch, tiny stitch in the fabric, bring it up through the edge of the fold. Take that base thread, wrap it around your needle, pull, caught on the pin over here, pull, little tug. We got another stitch and it is locked. Gonna do it again. Put your needle at the base of that stitch, at that last stitch. Run your needle through the fold. Needle comes up again at the edge of the fold. You're going to take a tiny stitch in the fabric and come up at the fold, almost the exact same spot. Stop, put your thread around your needle, and pull your thread. So now we have 4 stitches. Now you can't see, they're very small stitches. And on the other side, see those small, how small they are? Now you can see them because we're using contrasting thread, a darker thread on this light fabric. When you do your hem, your actual hem, you're going to use thread that is as close to the color of your fabric as possible. So those stitches aren't even going to show. Now, how do we tie this off? I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go under the last stitch. So just under the thread, not through the fabric, just under the thread. And I'm going to stop. Let me take this pin out so that won't be confusing. I'm going to stop and I'm going to take my base of my thread, I'm going to wrap it twice around the needle. Pull it, little tug, now you have a knot. Not just locked, it is knotted. And then for safety's sake, and because you don't want your threads to show, I'm going to take the needle and do the same like if I was just going to do another stitch. Take my needle at the base of that stitch, through, and it's in the fold. Bring the needle out, pull it out, and then I'm going to clip the thread, being careful not to clip my fabric. And now the tail is within the fold. And that just gives you a little extra safety. And there you go. You can hardly see those stitches even with the dark contrasting thread. And you do that for your whole hem. And then if something happens, I'm going to try this, and if it doesn't work I'm going to be really embarrassed. Say one of those got undone. Well, I didn't clip it. I caught my heel, let's say, in my dress. Yep, I clipped that thread. But the other stitches stay in place because we locked each stitch. So there you go. That's how to do a blind hem stitch. And each stitch is locked. My mom used to sew for me. If you're around my age, your mom's probably sewed for you too. And let me fix this. I'm going to tell you a little story. Whenever you sew, you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes they're going to be whoppers. And I've made plenty. I am not an expert sewer. So why am I making videos? Because I'm not an expert sewist. And, but I picked up things through the years that might be helpful to you. So that's why I'm doing this. And so those mistakes are going to happen. And when they do, you as an artist, because you're sewing, you're an artist. You're creating something. Even if you're using somebody else's pattern, you're creating something. You choose the fabrics. You choose the threads. So you're creating something new. And if you make a mistake, and sometimes they turn out to be whoppers, no big deal. You can figure out a way to fix it. My favorite dress that my mother made for me, most of the dress they had, they gathered at the waist, so you had a gathered skirt, and you know, the little short puffy sleeves with the strip around the edge, the piping around the edge. And for some reason, she cut it too short. I mean, way too short. And it was a little, I think it was a little floral piece, kind of a pinkish salmon color print. And so she took a contrasting fabric, solid fabric, and she made a strip about this wide all around the dress. And then she cut ovals of the fabric and appliqued that on all around the skirt. And it turned out to be the cutest dress she ever made, and my favorite one. So if you make a big mistake, don't worry about it. You can get mad, and if you're like me, say ugly words, and then, you know, go drink a Coke or a cup of coffee or have a Snicker bar, and then figure out what you're going to do. And you can do like Mom and make the most darling outfit. And that's what us artists do. You're an artist, I'm telling you. So I think that's going to do it for today. I'll ask you to like my Facebook page, Yaya Made Galveston, and like and share and comment on this video. And check out my Etsy shop, yayamadegalveston.etsy.com, and look at my handbags and my pot tees and bookmarks and sewing patterns. Might be something you can't live without. And if not you, tell your friends. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.